My name is Robert Martinez, and I'm 62 years old. For 27 years, I've been the backbone of Sullivan Manufacturing, keeping their production lines running when everyone else went home. 27 years of arriving at 6 a.m. to check the overnight reports, of staying until the third shift was settled, of never saying no when they needed someone to troubleshoot a machine failure on Christmas Eve. 6 weeks? That's all I had left before my medical benefits would become lifetime coverage. 6 weeks before I could retire with full health care for me and my wife Elena, who's been fighting diabetes for the past decade. 27 years and 10.5 months of service, and Marcus Webb just told me I was being restructured out. He didn't even have the courtesy to meet me in his office. Instead, he chose the break room at 4:30 p.m., when most of the day shift had gone home. The vending machines hummed in the background as he slid a manila envelope across the scratched Formica table. "Budget realignment, Robert," Marcus said, not meeting my eyes. "We're streamlining operations. Nothing personal." I stared at the envelope. Inside would be the termination paperwork, the COBRA forms, the return of property checklist. Everything neat and legal and final. 6 weeks? I said quietly. "What's that?" "I said 6 weeks. That's all I had left." Marcus finally looked at me then, his face blank. "Left for what?" "You know exactly what." He shrugged. "Business decisions can't be based on individual circumstances, Robert. I'm sure you understand." I understood plenty. I understood that Marcus had been asking a lot of questions about my responsibilities lately. I understood that the new industrial engineer, Kevin Santos, had been shadowing me for the past month, learning my routes, my contacts, my troubleshooting methods. I understood that 3 other longtime employees had been restructured in the past year, all of them within months of reaching significant benefit milestones. But understanding something and proving it are different things entirely. I signed the papers where Marcus indicated, using the same pen I'd carried for 15 years, the one with Sullivan Manufacturing's logo that was starting to fade around the edges. I cleaned out my locker, returned my safety equipment, and walked to my truck in the employee parking lot where I'd parked in the same spot for over 2 decades. The drive home gave me time to think. Elena would be expecting me at the usual time, and I'd have to tell her that the medical coverage we'd been counting on was gone, that the prescription costs for her insulin would come out of our retirement savings, that the specialist appointments we'd scheduled for next month would have to be canceled. But first, I had some checking to do. That evening, I spread my employment records across the dining room table. Elena sat beside me, her reading glasses perched on her nose as we went through everything together. Pay stubs, benefit statements, employee handbook updates, performance reviews. 27 years of documentation, all organized in chronological order, because Elena had insisted we keep everything. The numbers were clear. According to my calculations, I had exactly 27 years, 10 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days of service as of today. According to the company's termination paperwork, I had 27 years and 9 months. 5 weeks short of the 28-year milestone that would have guaranteed lifetime medical benefits. "They're lying," Elena said simply. She was a bookkeeper before she retired, and numbers didn't lie to her. "Your start date was February 3rd, 1997. I remember because it was the day after my birthday." I pulled out my original offer letter, yellowed but still legible. February 3rd, 1997. Elena was right. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I thought about Marcus in that break room, his casual dismissal of 27 years of loyalty. I thought about the other employees who'd been restructured under similar circumstances. I thought about Elena's medical bills and the promises Sullivan Manufacturing had made about taking care of their long-time workers. "I'm going to make some phone calls." The first call was to Diana Foster, who'd worked in Sullivan's Human Resources Department for 15 years before taking early retirement last spring. Diana had always been straight with people, never let the company cut corners on employee rights. I'd heard she was doing consulting work now, helping other companies avoid the kind of legal problems that came from treating workers badly. Diana answered on the third ring, her voice as crisp and professional as I remembered. "Robert Martinez," she said before I could introduce myself. "I heard what happened. Word travels fast in this industry." I laid out everything for her. The timing of my termination, the discrepancy in service calculations, Marcus's behavior over the past few months. She listened without interrupting, asking specific questions about dates and documentation. "You kept all your employment records?" she asked when I finished. My wife insisted. "Everything's organized by year." "Smart woman, Robert, I need you to listen carefully. What Marcus did isn't just unethical, it's illegal. The Employee Retirement Income Security Act protects workers from being terminated to prevent them from collecting earned benefits. But proving intentional interference requires more than just timing. We need to show deliberate intent." She explained how these cases worked. The Department of Labor took them seriously, but they needed solid evidence, documentation, a pattern of behavior, something that showed the termination wasn't coincidental, but calculated. "Bring everything to my office Thursday morning," she said. "Don't contact anyone at Sullivan. Don't discuss this with coworkers. If this goes where I think it might, we want them to believe they got away with it." Thursday morning, I arrived at Diana's office with 2 file boxes full of paperwork, employment records, company policy updates, email printouts, performance evaluations. She went through everything methodically, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When she got to a company-wide memo Marcus had sent out 2 months ago, she stopped reading and looked up at me. "Did you keep a copy of this?" My wife keeps copies of everything that seems important. The memo was titled Benefits Administration Update and assured all employees that the company was committed to honoring existing benefit agreements while implementing more accurate record-keeping procedures. "This is crucial," Diana said. "He put in writing that service calculations should be accurate, then terminated you with an inaccurate calculation 5 weeks before you hit the 28-year mark. Either he's incompetent or he's deliberately committing fraud." What's the difference? Incompetence gets you your job back and the benefits you earned. Fraud gets you that plus damages, plus a federal investigation that could result in criminal charges. She explained the process. File a complaint with the Department of Labor. They'd investigate, interview witnesses, review documents. If they found evidence of deliberate benefit interference, Sullivan would face serious penalties. Not just fines, potential criminal liability for the individuals involved. "How long does it take?" I asked. Depends. Could be weeks, could be months. But Robert, you need to understand something. Once we file this complaint, there's no going back. Marcus is going to know you didn't just walk away quietly. He's going to fight. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. Marcus Webb's name on the caller ID. Robert, I heard you've been asking questions about your termination. I hope you're not planning to make this more complicated than it needs to be. I didn't respond immediately. Look, I get it. You're disappointed. But we followed company policy exactly. Your service record shows 27 years and 9 months. I've got the documentation right here. What documentation? Your hire date, February 28, 1997. Your termination date, December 15, 2024. Simple math, Robert. He was lying, and we both knew it. I'd started on February 3rd, not February 28th. But Marcus was setting up his defense, trying to get me to argue with him over the phone where he could control the narrative. I'm not looking for trouble, I said. Good. That's good to hear. Because if someone were to file a frivolous complaint against the company, well, we'd have to defend ourselves, and defending ourselves might involve taking a very close look at that person's work history, making sure they never violated any safety protocols, never took any shortcuts that might have put other employees at risk. The threat was clear. Fight back, and they'd try to destroy what was left of my reputation. I understand, I said, and hung up. But Marcus didn't know that Diana had already filed the complaint that morning. Diana called me Thursday evening with news that changed everything. The Department of Labor moved fast on this one, she said. Turns out you're not the first person this has happened to. She'd spoken with the investigator assigned to my case. Over the past 18 months, 4 other longtime Sullivan employees had been terminated within weeks of reaching significant benefit milestones, all of them over 60, all with service records that had been mysteriously miscalculated. They're calling it a pattern, Diana explained. Systematic benefit interference, the kind of thing that triggers federal oversight. But there was more. The investigator had subpoenaed personnel files for all 5 terminated employees. What they found was a series of emails between Marcus and the operations director discussing legacy cost management and workforce optimization strategies. They weren't even careful about it, Diana said. Used company email, discussed specific employees by name. Your name appears in 11 separate communications over the past 4 months. I felt something cold settle in my chest. What did they say about me? That your position represented a significant ongoing liability. That your medical benefits and pension costs could be eliminated by restructuring your department. That your responsibilities could be distributed among younger employees at a fraction of the cost. They'd been planning this for months. While I was training Kevin Santos, while I was working overtime to meet production deadlines, while I was believing that loyalty and dedication mattered, they were calculating how much money they could save by getting rid of me. There's something else, Diana continued. The investigator wants to interview you Monday morning. They're bringing someone from the criminal division. Criminal? Robert, when a company deliberately terminates employees to avoid paying earned benefits, that's not just a labor violation. That's fraud. Wire fraud if they used electronic communications to plan it. The people involved can face federal charges. Monday morning, I sat in a conference room at the Department of Labor field office. Two investigators, both professional and thorough, recorded everything. They asked me to walk through my employment history, showed me printouts of emails I'd never seen. The emails were worse than Diana had described. Marcus and Operations Director Sarah Kim hadn't just discussed terminating me. They'd discussed a comprehensive plan to eliminate anyone approaching expensive benefit milestones. They called it proactive workforce management. They had a spreadsheet with names, dates, and projected savings. My name was on that spreadsheet, along with the 4 other employees who'd been terminated. We were all listed under Q120 at 25 optimization targets. Mr. Martinez, one of the investigators said, based on what we've found, we believe Sullivan Manufacturing engaged in a systematic scheme to defraud multiple employees of earned benefits. Your case is the most recent example. They showed me documents I'd never seen before, internal communications about the cost of maintaining older employees, memos about restructuring benefit obligations, a presentation to the board of directors that included a slide titled Legacy Employee Transition Strategy. My name was on that slide. We're going to need you to testify, the other investigator said. This is going to federal court. The people responsible are going to be held accountable. I thought about Marcus in that break room, telling me it was just business. I thought about 27 years of believing that hard work and loyalty would be rewarded. What do you need me to do? The federal investigation moved faster than anyone expected. By Wednesday, investigators had seized Sullivan's email servers and interviewed 12 current employees. By Friday, they'd executed search warrants on Marcus's office and the Human Resources Department. Diana kept me updated on everything they found. More evidence than they knew what to do with. Internal documents dating back 2 years showing a systematic plan to eliminate older employees. Spreadsheets calculating benefit savings. Email threads discussing optimal timing for terminations to avoid legal challenges. It's like they wanted to get caught, Diana told me over coffee Monday morning. The plan had been simple and ruthless. Identify employees approaching expensive benefit milestones. Find or create reasons to question their necessity. Terminate them just before their benefits vested. Save hundreds of thousands in long-term costs. Marcus had presented it to the board as financial necessity. The company was profitable, but benefit obligations were growing. Younger employees cost less to insure and didn't require long-term commitments. It was basic actuarial analysis. What he hadn't counted on was someone like me keeping detailed records, or someone like Diana understanding federal employment law, or investigators who took benefit fraud seriously. Friday afternoon, Marcus called again. This time, his voice was different, higher, strained. Robert, I think there's been a misunderstanding about your termination. We should meet, work something out. What kind of misunderstanding? Your service record. We may have made an error in our calculations. If you'd be willing to come in Monday morning, we could review everything. Make sure you get exactly what you deserve. He was panicking. The investigation had become public, mentioned in the local business journal. Sullivan's parent company was asking questions Marcus couldn't answer. I don't think that's necessary, I said. Robert, please. We've worked together for years. Let's handle this professionally. No lawyers, no government agencies, just two reasonable people working out a disagreement. But it was too late for reasonable. The Department of Labor had already filed criminal charges. Marcus was facing up to 7 years in federal prison for wire fraud and conspiracy to defraud employees of earned benefits. Monday morning, I got a call from Sullivan's corporate attorney, not Marcus, the actual company lawyer they brought in when things got serious. "Mr. Martinez, my client would like to discuss a settlement. Full restoration of your benefits, immediate reinstatement if you want it, and additional compensation for the inconvenience you've experienced." "How much additional compensation?" "We're prepared to offer $75,000, provided you agree not to pursue further legal action." I told him I'd consider it, then called Diana immediately. "Don't take it," she said without hesitation. "Robert, they're terrified. The criminal charges are just the beginning. Once this hits federal court, other employees are going to come forward. This is going to be a class action worth millions." She was right. By Tuesday, the Department of Labor had been contacted by 12 more current and former Sullivan employees who suspected their terminations or benefit calculations were fraudulent. By Thursday, it was 21. The local news picked up the story. "Federal investigation targets area manufacturer." Marcus's photo appeared in the business section, looking uncomfortable in a suit that suddenly seemed too expensive. I didn't have to do anything but wait. The system was working exactly as it was supposed to, and Marcus was about to learn what it felt like to have your future decided by someone else. Tuesday morning, I was having coffee with Elena when my phone rang. Diana, calling earlier than usual. "Turn on Channel 12, she said. "Now." I found the remote and switched to the local news. Marcus Webb was being led out of the Sullivan Manufacturing building in handcuffs, federal agents carrying boxes of evidence behind him. The reporter was explaining the charges: wire fraud, conspiracy to defraud employees of earned benefits, violation of federal employment laws. Federal prosecutors alleged that Webb and Operations Director Sarah Kim had engaged in a systematic scheme to terminate longtime employees just before they became eligible for expensive benefits. The alleged fraud cost affected employees nearly $500,000 in earned benefits, the reporter said. The camera showed Marcus stumbling as the agents helped him into a federal vehicle. His usually confident demeanor was gone, replaced by something that looked like shock. The indictment charges Webb with 18 counts of wire fraud and conspiracy. The reporter continued. If convicted, he faces up to 90 years in federal prison. I turned off the television and sat in the quiet of my kitchen. 27 years of getting up before dawn, of fixing problems other people couldn't solve, of believing that loyalty mattered. It had mattered, just not the way I'd thought. Diana called back with more news. The Department of Labor had completed their investigation. 23 employees had been affected by the scheme. Total damages exceeded $1.8 million. Sullivan's board had voted to terminate Marcus and Sarah immediately and had agreed to full restitution for all affected employees. "Your benefits are fully restored," she said, "backdated to when they should have vested, plus medical coverage and additional compensation for damages." "How much additional compensation?" $150,000 plus your legal fees. I thought about Marcus telling me it was just business, nothing personal, just the way things worked. 4 months later, I was in my garage, rebuilding the engine on my 1967 Camaro. The project had been sitting for years, waiting for me to have enough time to do it right. My benefit payments had started on schedule. The additional compensation sat in our savings account, earning interest while Elena and I decided what to do with it. Marcus had pleaded guilty to federal charges and been sentenced to 14 months in prison. Sarah Kim got 8 months and 18 months of probation. Sullivan had been acquired by a larger company that immediately overhauled the management structure. The local newspaper had run a follow-up story. Local workers' complaint leads to federal investigation. They'd wanted to interview me, but I'd declined. I wasn't looking for recognition. I just wanted what I'd earned. Elena brought me a beer while I worked on the engine. The Camaro was her idea. She'd always said I should have something to tinker with in retirement. "How's it coming?" she asked. "Slow but steady. These old engines, you can't rush them, but when you do it right, they run forever." She smiled. "Like marriages, like careers, like justice." I wiped my hands on a shop rag and took a sip of beer. Outside, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Tomorrow, I'd get back to work on the engine. There was no hurry now. I had all the time in the world.